Hare Krishna. Okay. Hare Krishna Punam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining us. And everybody else who's live, we can't see, who may be joining or after. Hare Krishna. So we'll read from Canto 1, chapter 11, verse 19. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Gyan Trimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuramritamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurave Gaurandaraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tavakdaya Namo Namaha. Vanchakarpa Tribhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vayevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Let's see Nitai section. Nitai Sachinandan picture there. Very nice. Hare Krishna. Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
So here we go, verse 19. Varamukha yascha sataso. Maybe you can unmute and chant the verse with me. Varamukha yascha sataso. Yanais tad
Lasat
kundala nirbhadha.
Kapola vadana shriya.
Kapola vadana shriyaha. All right, maybe it doesn't work out so good. Never mind. It's a little hard to coordinate maybe on this platform. Varamukyascha satato yanais tad darshano sukhaha asat kundalam nirbhat kapol kopalo vadan shriyaha. Varamukyascha cha satato yanais tad darshano sukhaha asat kundala nirbhata kapola vadana shriyaha. Anybody want to chant to this verse? How's your time?
Varamukhyascha shatasho janis tad darshano sukhaha lasad kundala nirbhata kapola vadana shriyaha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Varamukyas shatasho yanais tad darshanotu shukaha lasat kundala nirbhata kapola vadana shriyaha.
Anybody else? Punam, Jai Sachinandan Prabhu, Hare Krishna, welcome Ji, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I just joined. I had to take care of some things. I can try. Varamukyacha satasho yanaistad darshana utsakaha lasat kundala nirbhata kapola vadana shriya. Thank you.
Jai.
Varamukhascha shataso jnana darshano sukha lasat kundala nirbhata kapola vadana shriya.
Varamukha, well-known prostitutes, cha, and satashaha, hundreds of, Yanahi, by vehicles, tat darshanaha, or meeting him, Lord Shri Krishna. Utsakaha, very much anxious, lasat, hanging, kundala, earrings, nirbadha, bhata, dazzling, kapola, forehead, vadana, face, shriyaha, beauty. Text in purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. At the same time, many hundreds of well-known prostitutes began to proceed on various vehicles. They were all very eager to meet the Lord, and their beautiful faces were decorated with dazzling earrings, which enhanced the beauty of their foreheads. Verse before was speaking about many people. They hastened toward the Lord on chariots and with brahmanas bearing flowers, before them elephants, emblems, and good fortune, conch shells, and bugles, and sounded in Vedic hymns were chanted. Thus they offered the respects which were saturated with affection. So everybody is coming to welcome Lord Krishna back to Dwarka. And this verse is specifically pointing out that the well-known prostitutes are also very eager to come meet the Lord. Purport. We may not hate even the prostitutes if they are devotees of the Lord. How do I get rid of this? There we go. Sorry, forgive me. Technology. We may not hate even the prostitutes if they are devotees of the Lord. Even to date, there are many prostitutes in great cities of India who are sincere devotees of the Lord. By tricks of chance, I was reading this verse from Srila Prabhupada's original Srimad Bhagavatam before it was edited. And this word was not tricks at that time. It said flicks, by flicks of chance. So whichever it may be, by flicks of chance or by tricks of chance, one may be obliged to adopt a profession which is not very adorable in society, but that does not hamper one in executing devotional service to the Lord. Devotional service to the Lord is unchecked in all circumstances. What a statement. All devotional service to the Lord is unchecked in all circumstances. It is understood herein that even in those days, about 5,000 years ago, there were prostitutes in a city like Dwarka, where Lord Krishna resided. This means that prostitutes are necessary citizens for the proper upkeep of society. The government opens wine shops, but this does not mean that the government encourages the drinking of wine. The idea is that there is a class of men who will drink at any cost. And it has been experienced that prohibition in great cities encourage illicit smuggling of wine. Similarly, men who are not satisfied at home require such concessions. And if there is no prostitute, then such low men will induce others into prostitution. It is better that prostitutes be available in the marketplace so that the sanctity of society can be maintained. It is better to maintain a class of prostitutes than to encourage prostitutes within society. The real Reformation, The real reformation is to enlighten all people to become devotees of the Lord, and that will check all kinds of deteriorating factors of life. Srila Biva Mangala Thakur, a great acharya of the Vishnu Swami Vaishnava sect, in his household life was overly attached to a prostitute who happened to be a devotee of the Lord. One night when the Thakur came to Chintamani's house in torrents of rain and thunder, Chintamani was astonished to see how the Thakur could have come on such a dreadful night after crossing a foaming river which was full of waves. She said to Thakur Biva Mangala that his attraction for the flesh and bone of an insignificant woman like her would be properly utilized if it could be diverted to the devotional service of the Lord to achieve attraction for the transcendental beauty of the Lord. It was a momentous hour for the Thakur, and he took a turn towards spiritual realization by the words of a prostitute. Later on, the Thakur accepted the prostitute as his spiritual master. And in several places of his literary works, he has glorified the name of Chintamani, who showed him the right path. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord 9.32, the Lord says, O son of Prita, even the low-born Chandalas and those who are born in a family of unbelievers, and even the prostitutes, shall attain perfection of life if they take shelter of unalloyed devotional service to me. Because in the path of devotional service, there is no impediments due to degraded birth and occupation. The path is open for everyone who agrees to follow it. It appears that the prostitutes of Dwarka, who were so eager to meet the Lord, were all his unalloyed devotees, and thus they were all on the path of salvation according to the above version of the Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, the only reformation that is necessary in society is to make an organized effort to turn the citizens into devotees of the Lord, and thus all good qualities of the denizens of heaven will overtake them in their own way. Can you please mute? Thank you. Therefore, the only reformation that is necessary in society is to make an organized effort to turn the citizens into devotees of the Lord, and thus all good qualities of the denizens of heaven will overtake them in their own way. On the other hand, those who are non-devotees have no good qualifications whatsoever. However, they may be materially advanced. The difference is that the devotees of the Lord are on the path of liberation, whereas the non-devotees are on the path of further entanglement and material bondage. The criterion of advancement of civilization is whether the people are educated and advanced on the path of salvation. I remember when I first read this verse many, many years ago, it was quite astonishing for me to think about. At the same time, many hundreds of well-known prostitutes begin to proceed on various vehicles. They were all very eager to meet the Lord, and their beautiful faces were decorated with dazzling earrings, which enhanced the beauty of their foreheads. Reading this verse, this word eager just pops out at me. Srila Prabhupada mentions it later in the purport too. But we'll come back to eagerness. I'd like to touch on this idea of Srila Prabhupada bringing out the need for prostitution in society. When I hear this, I think, whoa, that doesn't seem like, doesn't seem right, but not all people in society will take to the process of devotional service. Not only to the process of devotional service, but to a how do you say, to follow cultured society in which one would not engage in such activities of visiting the prostitutes. But Srila Prabhupada, as he points out here, that we know many people like to drink alcohol. And when there's prohibitions, there's illegal smuggling. So in the same way, this idea of prostitution would also do this. And I don't know if he used the word unscrupulous, but I think I've heard Srila Prabhupada use this word before, unscrupulous men. But those who are very much eager to satisfy their senses and who are not satisfied with being married and having sex life within marriage, they look out elsewhere, whether they're men or women, doesn't matter, especially this day and age. Maybe in the Vedic times, it was a little bit different. This, of course, is a different society in which we're reading Dvarka in the Vedic time and America and even around the world, but in 2022, very different times. But the idea is the same. People want to engage in activities that satisfy their senses. And as we've read many, many places, of all sense gratification, sex life is the most desirable. So people are not satisfied with sex life with one person. They want to engage in many, many, many different persons. Srila Prabhupada here is not encouraging such activity, but pointing out that if there isn't this class of people engaged in prostitution, then unscrupulous, uncontrolled persons will engage those who may not be willing for prostitution in such acts, otherwise known as rape and other abominable type things. So in order to keep a sense of peacefulness in society, it's there. But what I really, really love about what Srila Prabhupada's bringing out here is that bhakti has no limitations. How does it, devotional service to the Lord is unchecked in all circumstances because bhakti is completely independent. For bhakti to awaken in one's heart, there is no external circumstances that need to be met. of course, being in the mode of goodness, having good samskaras, these things are if these things can help one in taking the activities of devotional service more seriously or more sincerely. But for bhakti to manifest, there's none of these things are necessary. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur and Madhurya Kandabini explains this very extensively, and I am not so realized, in which I can explain to his extent. But he states that that Bhakti Devi is completely independent. And if you want more deep and detailed explanations, one may want to look through this works of Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur. Of course, Srila Prabhupada in his purports bring out all of these realizations. So one, according to their Srila in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about karma and talks about how what we're thinking about at the time of death we become. He also talks about how when we're engaged in activities, it also makes impressions within our consciousness, and it further it makes our next life activities prominent. So depending on our past activities, we have a certain disposition to engage in activities in the current life. So we engage in occupational duties according to our consciousness, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, sometimes lower, Chandalas, Malechas. And what Srila Prabhupada is bringing up here, that no matter what profession one adopts, even if it's not very adorable or appreciated in society, one can engage in the process of devotional service. So we all here know the 9 processes of devotional service: hearing and chanting, remembering, offering prayers, worshiping, becoming a friend, these surrendering our lives fully. No matter what occupational duties we have to perform in this life, any one or more of these processes of devotional service can be done. Through working with our hands, we can be chanting Hare Krishna, right? Especially nowadays, we can play kirtan so often, almost, maybe not every occupation, but many occupations, we can be listening to kirtan. And if that's not the case, we can always remember the Lord in every circumstance. So whatever we're doing, this idea of always remembering Krishna, never forgetting Krishna, should be the kind of the center of our consciousness, because all Vedic instructions culminate in these 2 things. Srila Prabhupada brings up Biva Mangala Thakur because I think of all of all circumstances, or of all the different pastimes of devotees engaged in certain various things. This is a very, when we bring up prostitute, this is kind of one of the first things one may think of, because of the story that Srila Prabhupada told. So this Bival Mangala Thakur coming to Chintamani's house. Yeah, this was during like a monsoon storm. So Srila Prabhupada says torrents of rain and thunder. It's like, imagine that the river that he's having to cross, it was like, I mean, it was like death personified, raging through. The waves were really high, and from what I understand, he almost died several times trying to cross. But what did he have? He had eagerness. Eagerness for what? To enjoy the flesh and bone. Srila Prabhupada points out the flesh and bone of this insignificant woman. So when one has eagerness for something, it is like eagerness is like a excellent, it's like the great motivator of getting something done or attaining something. If one is eager for something, they will do whatever it takes, almost at any cost. So Biva Mangala Thakur is very eager to enjoy this Chintamani. So when she saw him, and it's like, what is happening here? Why are you so eager to enjoy this body? You should instead divert your attention to the Lord. And instead of being eager to see me, you should be eager to see Krishna. There's another story where this one Brahmana, he was becoming attracted to one prostitute that lived like behind him and his wife. He was a married Brahmana. His wife was here. And he would see the prostitute, and lust became prominent in his heart, that he wanted to enjoy that prostitute. His wife, knowing this and being a very, I don't know, I guess it's explained, very surrendered to her husband and wanting to please him, she started doing some service for that prostitute. And she was saying, "Why are you doing this? You don't need to do this." And she said, "Well, I don't have money to pay you or whatever." And she said, "No, you don't need to pay me, but maybe you can, my husband very much wants to enjoy you." And I think I'm mixing up two stories in my head. Very much eager to enjoy you. So please, whatever service I've done, you please allow him to come. So she said, "Okay, you come. Sure, have him come." And when he came, she basically told him that, she cooked two things. That's right. She cooked two things. She made some nice sattvic food, and she cooked some meat. And she put it down on the table in front of the Brahmin and said, this is sattvic food here, and this is meat. I cooked both. Which one would you like? And he said, I would like the sattvic food, of course. I'm a Brahmana. And she said, so you're coming here to enjoy me, and I am like the meat, and your wife is like the sattvic food. So why are you going to contaminate yourself with this here, flesh? Like me, you're focused on this flesh, but this is of no significance in this world. So she preached to him. Another such story is of another Brahmana who was wanting to enjoy this one prostitute, very beautiful lady. She said, yes, you come. So that night, before he came, she did a purging. In Ayurvedic, there's such a thing called like purging. You take certain herbs and oils in it. It's kind of like an internal cleanse. So she did that purging through both eliminating both ends, vomiting and the other side, and kept it in pots, kept it there. And she was also looking very sick, and she was very like emaciated and everything. And so when the Brahmin came, he said, well, I'm here to meet one person. And she said, yes, I am that person. He said, well, what happened? She said, oh, I've done, he couldn't believe. No. And she said, oh, come, look, here's the beauty that you were looking for. Look, here's the beauty. This is where all the beauty went. And she showed the pots of vomit and stool and everything. And she pointed out that these bodies of flesh and bone, blood, pus, urine, all these things, we're attracted to this. Instead, you should focus your attention on the Supreme Lord. So these are a couple stories that, are told throughout the Vedic literatures that, I probably, didn't tell very well, but you get the idea that when one is a devotee of the Lord, their consciousness is fixed on the spiritual. And thus, these, even though their external occupation may not be in line with what one would think as a devotee, but internally, you can see that their consciousness was very elevated, in which they were able to preach to these so-called brahmanas. So, and then another thing that I'm thinking also is that just because one is a brahmana doesn't mean that they have, always make the best choices that these certain folks are going to try to enjoy. So the conditioned nature is that we are eager to enjoy through the senses. And taking this example of Chintamani, telling Bijavanamangala Thakur, we have to divert our attention to trying to enjoy through the senses for their satisfaction, but to focus our attention on trying to please Krishna. So when we eagerly hear and chant, associate with the devotees, and when we associate with the devotee, this doesn't mean that we talk about all sorts of, prajapa, things unrelated to Krishna, but we should try to encourage each other and diving deeper. Now, that doesn't mean that, you know, you don't ask how one's family is doing, how one's health is, how one is doing. That doesn't mean that, but you know, we should be, you know, interested in caring for all aspects of the devotees. But our overall our overall intention or goal is to always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. So when we sit down to chant, I don't know how many of us have chanted our rounds already, but at least for today, contemplate this idea of being eager to chant, not being eager to finish our rounds, but being eager to hear the holy name and associate with Krishna through his holy name. Because after all, Baninatvam Namanamino, Krishna and his holy name are identical. So when we are eager, this is what we need when Krishna says, surrender unto me. Give up all varieties of religion, surrender unto me. Srila Prabhupada says, how do we surrender? Bow down to me, remember me, worship me, and thus you will come to me without fail. So these 9 processes of devotional service are there, and this point of eagerness is something I wanted to think about bringing out. So how eager was Haridas Thakur to chant the holy name? When a prostitute came to Haridas, he was so eager to finish his rounds. He was like, wait, no, you know, I will fulfill all of your desires. Of course, he wasn't planning on fulfilling any of her desires, but in order to keep her here so that she could hear his eager chanting of 192 rounds. And I think at that time he was having even more. He was doing a vrata, some, you know, he made some vow that he would chant extra rounds. So for Haridas Thakur, chanting extra rounds meant that he didn't sleep his 2 hours a day or whatever it was. Actually, it wasn't that he slept 2 hours. That was 2 hours was the only amount of time he left for the needs of his body. So that's sleeping and eating and bathing and whatever else we need to do to maintain this body. So when this prostitute came and heard from Haridas, the holy name, it purified her heart so much that she surrendered. And he told her to stay here, worship Tulsi, and chant the holy name. So these devotees of Dwarka, who happen to be prostitutes, in this verse is speaking how eager they are to come and welcome the Lord to Dwarka. So when we are engaging in our service, whatever it may be, try to eagerly welcome Krishna into our hearts so that he will reside there always. And every moment of our 24 hours of daily existence can be absorbed in remembering, worshiping, bowing down, and sharing Krishna with others. No external circumstance can ever check this devotional process. And as we remember Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur speaking to Srila Prabhupada, that the only important thing in society is to awaken Krishna consciousness. So with that, do we want to, anybody have questions they want to bring up? Any questions? We have some time. There's probably many aspects of this purport that I didn't actually bring up or explain nicely, which would be natural for me, but please, if you have some question or comment, now's the time.
Please keep speaking. Very nice.
So
If you have.
I was also thinking about this unalloyed devotional service that Srila Prabhupada uses this term unalloyed. So unalloyed means pure. When you have an alloy, it means like a mixture of metals, but unalloyed, completely pure devotional service. Rupa Goswami, see if I can remember, says in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that pure devotional service is defined as not desiring fruitive activity or karma, the results of one's activities, or knowledge, but it is performed favorably for the pleasure of Krishna. And in the second chapter of the first canto, it's verse 6, it's explained that devotional service should be unmotivated and uninterrupted. So unmotivated means we don't want anything personal. We don't want to gain anything from our service. So the eagerness of these devotees, these unalloyed devotees, are in Dvarka. What to speak of the devotees of Vrindavan? There's one devotee, his name is, I have to look it up to be 100% sure, but they call him Laudi Baba. He's a one cowherd boy. When Krishna was leaving via Govardhan Hill, it's a very famous place on Govardhan. Devotees always stop there because this devotee was so eager for Krishna to return to Vrindavan that he sat there and fasted until death. He sat and he said, he saw Krishna, he said, "Where are you going?" He said, "I have to go to Mathura, I'll be back." He said, "Oh, I have khichdi here waiting for you." He said, I will take it when I come back. He said, "Okay, I will wait here." He said, No, don't wait here. I will come, don't worry. He said, "No, I will sit here and I will wait for your return." And that he sat there for forever and ever. How eager were the cowherd boys to play with Krishna. For the gopis, for Krishna to steal their butter, for him to return from the pasturing grounds. When Krishna played his flute, the young gopis, how eager were they to go and meet with Krishna that they didn't even put their clothes on properly. When Krishna was stolen by Putana, Yashoda Mai, how intense was her suffering. When he was dancing on the heads of Kalia and the Jamuna, how much suffering were I guess all of them, everybody was so much in distress. We read in Krishna book in Srimad Bhagavatam. When Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill, how eager were they all to see the beauty of Krishna and to help and serve Krishna. They didn't only just sit there, but the cowherd men, they were holding up sticks. Mother Yashoda was eager for Krishna to eat something. You've been standing here all day, Krishna, holding up Govardhan Hill with one finger. Please eat something. The cowherd boys were eager to keep Krishna happy and satisfied. They were telling jokes like this. So there's no lack, definitely no lack of eagerness throughout, these pastimes. This is what fuels the fire of desiring to attain Krishna. Greed to understand Krishna, to love Krishna, to serve Krishna, to please Krishna. If we are eager for Krishna, then Maya cannot distract us. And if due to our past conditioning, we find ourselves distracted, don't lose heart. Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, Krishna says, even though my devotees, they've surrendered to me, but due to some lingering contamination of material desire, due to whatever, they may engage in some activity that is not favorable to devotional service, but knowing that they should know that they should just continue. I'm not butchering the verse. I have it written here. It's a very, very nice verse. I'll share it. Give me just a moment to bring it up. I think it's on this. Having awakened faith in the narrations of my glories, being disgusted with all material activities, knowing that all sense gratification leads to misery, but still being unable to renounce all sense gratification, my devotee should remain happy and worship me with great faith and conviction. Even though he is sometimes engaged in sense enjoyment, my devotee knows that all sense enjoyment leads to a miserable result, and he sincerely repents such activities. So no matter what, keep our focus on attaining Krishna with enthusiasm, patience, and determination. One time, Dinatarni Prabhu, she's very Jamuna Devi's best friend. She's a Prabhupada disciple. She wrote Srila Prabhupada one time and asked Prabhupada some questions. And she received a letter back from Srila Prabhupada, and he gave these two instructions. She gave these three things that we, in our devotional, on the path of devotional service, we should have these three things: patience, determination, and enthusiasm. Sometimes enthusiasm, sometimes we're lacking one or more of these things. And what? Okay, I'm busy right now. I'll help you in a few minutes. Sorry. We may be missing one of these three things, and we will find some disturbance. So make sure these three things are always in good balance. And if one is finding they're not enthusiastic, there's two things. Associate with those devotees who are enthusiastic and act enthusiastic, and eventually enthusiasm will come. tomorrow is Diwali, and when we light our lamps or turn on our lights or contemplate what is happening, remember that the residents of Ayodhya were eagerly welcoming Lord Ram back from the forest into the Ayodhya Dham and lighting lamps so he could see his way. So when we are lighting our lamps, especially, we light lamps every day in this month of Kartik, welcoming Gopal's transcendental pastimes to ever be enacted in our hearts. Let's try to meditate on this eagerness to serve the Lord and to serve his devotees. And Tuesday, we'll have the Divine Govardhan Puja. So thank you all for allowing me to do some service. And if there's any further questions or comments, please let's leave the last 3 minutes for that.
Hare Krishna, Bala Nitai Prabhu, this is Param Karunan Das.
Hare Krishna.
Always so nice to hear from you, Prabhuji. A very nice class. It was a difficult topic, but you covered it so nicely. I attended the second half of it, but really liked it. Thank you so much.
I thank you for appreciating my efforts.
Always, Prabhuji, always. You're an inspiration.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Thank you. Do you want to add some comment or something?
No, Prabhuji, I was just listening, and I really liked how you took up this difficult topic and so nicely explained. I liked all the examples. Some of them, one of them specifically, I had not heard before. I'll ask you for their, where you read them from, or what were I'd like to read more about them.
Okay.
That sattvic and non-sattvic food aspect I had not read before.
Oh, yeah.
So.
I'll share. I actually heard a lecture that Mahatma Prabhu was giving, but I've also read it somewhere. I have to remember where though. I've heard it a couple times, but I heard Mahatma Prabhu give a class, and he used that example.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, he speaks very nicely on these, some of the difficult topics.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Anyone else? There's so many. So many names here.
Thank you for sharing. I also liked the lecture. It's a complex verse, and to understand the application in one's own life is also very nice. I really liked your emphasis on enthusiasm or eagerness, as it's stated here, and the connection to chanting. I thought that was a very wonderful point about not being eager to complete, but actually being eager to start chanting and to associate with the Lord. That was very nice. Many good points, many nice examples on a complex verse, or a sensitive verse, I guess I should say. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. It is the Yuga Dharma. So there are so many other devotional practices, but this Sankirtan, Srila Prabhupada said, of all instructions, doing your 16 rounds is the most important. So even though we come together and do kirtan, if we're not focusing on the kirtan, we're not focusing on our japa, but if we're just doing it with mechanical, then I don't think we'll ever really taste Krishna in his holy name. That's my understanding. Haribol.
Thank you. Does anybody else have comments, questions? Prabhuji was asking for that.
Hare Krishna, Bala Nitai Prabhu, thank you so much for discussing this verse so wonderfully. Thank you. I really like where the example of the Haridas Thakur and the prostitute and the power of the holy name and which transformed the prostitute into a devotee. Thank you so much for that example, and just a wonderful reminder that we need, or myself, I need to be more eager for chanting and not just completing my rounds. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Okay, it sounds like there's no questions, so we will end. Thank you for encouraging me and appreciating my efforts to serve you.
Thank you for taking on.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Thank you for taking it up.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Okay.
Shri Guru Gauranga ki jai. Hare Krishna.